Welcome to the David Toddcast. Week 5 in the NFL, and every week feels like a big game. This one, I think, is an extraordinarily big game for both the Steelers and the Cowboys. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at David M. Todd. Please comment, like the podcast on YouTube, and share it with your friends. We've got a lot to talk about today with the Cowboys and the Steelers having an 8:20 matchup Sunday night. I want to start with the quarterback position because this is, for the Steelers, in the short and long term, as with every team in the NFL, the most interesting thing going on. And I think this week's game in particular against Dallas has massive ramifications for, obviously, the Steelers, but for Justin Fields in particular. Fields, to this point in the season, I think he has been very much what any Steeler fan, any Justin Fields fan could have hoped for, in the sense that he has been good. He hasn't made mistakes, which the biggest thing in Chicago was the number of turnovers. I'm sure you know, I think in his 40 career starts, something like 38 interceptions and 30 fumbles, something crazy like that. But for Justin Fields, what we've seen with the Steelers, and really the positive, and I talked about this after the Indy game, is the most important thing for a quarterback is good decision-making and accuracy with the football. And Justin Fields has done that pretty well, and he's made progress. The problem, the biggest thing that we don't know about Justin Fields yet is kind of bigger picture. When you take the training wheels off, when you kind of cut things loose, is Justin Fields going to be able to put up 30 points, on a semi-regular basis? If you watched the game last night, the Thursday night game between Tampa and Atlanta, 36-30, you saw two incredibly efficient quarterbacks making good decisions, throwing a bunch of touchdown passes. Cousins threw for 500 yards. I think he had 4 TDs. Baker Mayfield only threw for 200 yards, but 3 TDs, incredibly efficient. We haven't seen that level of production in the passing game from Justin Fields. And honestly, I put that as much on the coaching staff as I do on Fields himself. So we saw something in the second half last week. But again, it's hard for me to assess quarterback play when you find yourself down 17-3 at halftime. The dynamics of the game for both teams change. And then one has a sense of desperation, need to get back in the game. The other is tick-tock, run the clock, try to put a couple points up, but kind of shorten the game and see what you can do. And the Steelers almost got there. They almost got back there with Justin Fields. Unfortunately, that bad snap turned out to be, to me, a really decisive play, and they didn't get a chance to convert that last drive, and they put their first loss up on the board for the season. But I want to talk about where we are now with Russell Wilson now being maybe a week away from being 100%. My view of this is going to be completely unconventional and different than I think anybody else you're going to hear. First of all, this week, Russell Wilson has continued to be a little limited. There was a report yesterday that he'll be the backup quarterback on Sunday. That's ridiculous. If he's not 100%, he should not be the backup quarterback. And it doesn't, if he's limited in practice on Thursday, he's not going to be, he's not in a position where he's gone 100% in practice. So they should keep Kyle Allen as the number 2 guy and have Russ be the emergency quarterback. We'll see how that lines up. But here's the deal, and this is why I think this is a fascinating game for Justin Fields' big picture career. Think about this. If Justin Fields plays okay and the Steelers win, they're going to be 4-1 through 5 games. I think it'd be incredibly difficult for Mike Tomlin to make a change. If Justin Fields goes out and throws for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Cowboys and the Steelers roll, unquestionably Justin Fields is going to be your quarterback when the Steelers go to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders in Week 6. But let's look at the other scenario. Even though Justin Fields certainly hasn't played poorly, he has been I would put him as a league average quarterback to this point in the season. And I think that is good enough a level for the Steelers to get to the playoffs. 3-1 now. If they can win this game, be 4-1. But the scenario is, what if the Steelers lose this game on Sunday? And no doubt, you put for me, the loss last week against the Colts is on the defense. But if they lose this game on Sunday and Justin Fields doesn't play particularly well, certainly that opens the door for Mike Tomlin to make a change at the quarterback position. The amount of money that is at stake here for these two guys, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, for playing for a contract for next season. Both these guys are free agents at the end of the year. If Fields plays great and goes on to take the Steelers to a playoff berth and a winning playoff game, that's potentially, we're talking of the difference between making $8 to $10 million next year as somebody's backup, maybe the Steelers' backup, or potentially making $40, $45, $50 million as the Steelers or somebody else's starting quarterback. And, much the same thing to Russ. So if I'm the Steelers and I'm thinking about this, and I don't think this is a situation where Art Rooney's going to inject himself into the decision making. But if I'm Mike Tomlin and I thought coming into the season that Russell Wilson is my best option for the Steelers to go out and win football games. And here I am, and I've watched 4 weeks of Justin Fields, and I'm going to have one more week coming up here against Dallas. Now, look, we're sitting here right now. I don't know how this game is going to go Sunday night, and certainly it will be the most recent data point, and it'll give you, 25% more data. 1/4, 25%. You're going to have a fifth game for Mike Tomlin to assess. So we're going to have a lot more information when we sit and talk about this Sunday night. So what I say now, maybe it doesn't hold. But what I would do if I were Mike Tomlin, almost regardless of how Justin Fields plays over the next couple of weeks. If he's Kirk Cousins and throwing for 500 yards, obviously that's one thing. And if he's absolutely terrible, that's another thing. But let's take the middle of the road scenario, the most likely scenario, that Justin Fields continues to play like he's played through the first 4 weeks, like an average NFL starting quarterback, which, by the way, that is not a disparagement. Average NFL starting quarterback. That's what Steeler fans should be looking for, and kind of not best case scenario, but certainly starting the base level for Justin Fields. That's good. But at some point here, you've got to see what you have with Russell Wilson, because the stated goal for the organization, as is every organization, is to win the Super Bowl. But I think you want to see both quarterbacks. And I think it's at some point the Steelers should give Russell Wilson an opportunity. Now, when is going to be the right time to do this? Don't have any idea. Can't forecast the future. So we're talking about it with the, game theory, the best information that we have right now. When should you give Russell Wilson the opportunity? I'm not sure if the Steelers come off a loss in this Cowboys game. I think it'll be very difficult to make a change if they win this game and they're 4-1. But sometime over the next couple weeks, the Steelers go to Las Vegas. They play home games against the Jets and the Giants. Think about it. If you're making lines, no Devontae Adams in Las Vegas. At best, an average Raiders football team. The Steelers haven't played great against the Raiders on the road. Different scenario here in Las Vegas versus Oakland. But that game, at worst, the Steelers are going to be pick 'em, probably, depending on how things go on Sunday. They'll be a slight favorite. And then the Jets and Giants at home, the Steelers are going to be favored. This is an opportunity, and I'm really curious how Mike Tomlin looks at this and says, the growth of Justin Fields, we're going to go with that. Or here's an opportunity to give Russ, go against a team in the Raiders that he played against, again, when he was with Denver a couple times, has some familiarity with them. And then 2 home games, should win games against the Jets and the Giants. Fascinating stuff. I think they should give Russ a chance here before the bye, see what they have, come out of the bye, and know who your quarterback's going to be. I'm not a believer of that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. That's not what this situation is. This is evaluate both guys. We have a sense now of where Justin Fields is. We'll have a clearer sense of things after the Cowboy game. I think you want to give Russell Wilson an opportunity to understand which quarterback has the higher ceiling and which quarterback gives you the better opportunity in the playoffs, because I think this is a playoff team. I don't think certainly that isn't the consensus view. Certainly more data points, you can have more information to help your decision. But I think sometime over the next 3 weeks, starting next week against Las Vegas, we need to see Russell Wilson get a start, evaluate what they have with him. If you can't do it, go to Justin Fields. I don't believe in any of this. You lose the locker room variety, a lot of the other kind of nonsense that we hear. You have two quarterback stuff. Find out what you have with Russell Wilson. You thought he was going to be your number one guy. Move forward with the guy who you think gives you the best opportunity the last 9 weeks of the season. Okay, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. First of all, what a disastrous defensive effort from the Steelers last week. And we talked about it in the postgame, but just two things. One is TJ Watt's going to get held every game. And I thought when discussing it yesterday, I think it was Terrell Austin when asked, what do you do about TJ being held? He said, look, guys get held in the NFL every week. It's, we've got to live with this. As Mike Tomlin said in his press conference when talking about the foul on Minkah, which was, he said, it talked to New York about it. They thought it was a bad call. I liked how he said, we've got to go on and play football and deal with things because they're not perfect. We're not perfect. Address it and move on. For the Steelers, they should continue to address this in the media so that it is a topic of conversation on the national talk shows, on the pregame shows on Sunday about how much TJ Watt's being held. At the same time, they need TJ Watt to be a difference maker. They need Minkah Fitzpatrick to be a difference maker. Minkah has been very quiet. And it's not, you look at Minkah's numbers when teams are attacking him. And look, in the defense, when you're playing, kind of free safety like Minkah is, defenses aren't necessarily attacking Minkah. I mean, one of his responsibilities is deep balls over the middle in general, if you want to generalize what his role as a free safety. Obviously, each play can be different. But we haven't seen teams beat the Steelers over the top. So, them not taking shots like that is largely because Minkah's there. However, we haven't seen Minkah make any splash plays, and I think it's been now, at least a year and a half since he's had an interception. So, look, you pay these guys the amount of money they're being paid. They need to be difference makers. On Sunday against the Colts, nobody was a difference maker. Steelers gave up 17 plays of 10-plus yards and 5 plays of 20-plus yards, these kind of splash plays. That's not what we expect from the Steelers defense. They've got to be better against the Cowboys. This is a Cowboys team that comes in. They're averaging 24 points a game. Dak is a good mobile quarterback. CeeDee Lamb is one of the 3 or 4 best receivers in the NFL. They're going to have their hands full with that. You would expect Joey Porter Jr. to get that assignment. Between him and Ferguson, that's kind of where they are offensively. They've scored a lot of points, but I don't view them. Look, you're not going to take CeeDee Lamb away. So if you say, hey, CeeDee gets 7 catches for 80 yards and no touchdowns, I'd call that a success. But we need to see the Steelers defense step up, contain Dak, get pressure on the quarterback, force the Cowboys into third and long situations, and do a much better job getting off the field. Because as we saw the offense make the comeback they did last week, the one thing the defense didn't do was get off the field. Gave up 3 third downs of 3rd or 6th and more in the second half. 1 touchdown drive, 1 field goal drive. That was the difference in the game. More interestingly, on the offensive side of the ball for the Steelers, going to be without Cordero Patterson, and going to be without Jalen Warren. The situation with the Steelers offense is going to be fascinating this week in the sense that you're playing a Cowboys defense that's one of the worst in the NFL against the rush, giving up 145 yards a game, and you don't have 2 of your 3 running backs. Najee Harris. What's the deal with Najee Harris? If you've watched the Steelers over the last year and a half, what you've seen is what looks like dynamic runs from the running back position with Jalen Warren. This year, somewhat surprisingly to me, over the last 2 games, we've seen dynamic runs from the running back position out of Cordero Patterson. 7 carries, 43 yards against the Colts. The only thing the Steelers had going in the first half was that one drive late in the half that ended in the George Pickett's fumble, where Cordell Patterson had, was able to gash through the middle a bunch of times. What's the deal with Najee? Because we're not seeing that at all. And if you look at the film, the crazy stuff is Najee never seems to have holes to run through. And it's hard to believe that the Steelers are blocking and creating holes for Jaylen Warren and Cordell Patterson, and they're blocking and not creating holes for Najee Harris. So this week, it's going to be Najee. It's going to be Aaron Shanklin, the kid from Harvard. He's going to get his first. He had 1 carry for 5 yards last week. He's going to get an opportunity in this game. Interested to see how much they play him, and what are the Steelers going to give Connor Hayward an opportunity in the backfield? They're going to be short in the run game. So what does that mean in the pass game? Well, the Steelers really need to take the training wheels off, because you can't, one of the things is the Steelers defense is much more likely to play well if you give them a lead and you have the other team has to play from behind. But if you don't, if you keep putting them in a situation where the offense has to play catch up, or the Steelers defense doesn't get it done as they did not in the first half against the Indy Colts, then you've got to play perfect, mistake-free football. How about an opportunity for the Steelers defense to have a 14-point lead or a 17-point lead themselves, so they can tee off, they can kind of set the tempo, and what the other team is trying to do. And that means taking the training wheels off for Justin Fields right from the get-go. I mean, I put this up on Twitter, again, at David Todd. The first 2 plays in each of the Steelers' first 4 games, here's what they had. Against the Falcons in game 1, they fumbled the opening snap. He gained 3 yards recovering the fumble. Second pass incomplete. They started 3rd and 7 on the first drive. Against Denver, Najee, 1 yard run into the middle. Second play, pass incomplete. 3rd and 9. Third game against the Chargers. Fields scrambles for a 4-yard gain. Najee runs for 1, 3rd and 5. As far as the 4 games go, that was a huge success. But again, behind the chains. And then this past week against Indy, you remember, Frazier steps on Fields' foot. So 2 of the 4 games, they have a bad exchange on the first play. Najee loses 2. Fields scrambles for 3, 3rd and 9. They need to come out better. They need to show a little more creativity, a little more aggressiveness to open the game. Hopefully we see that this week. I've said it now. I think this will be the 3rd week in a row that I do think we will see Roman Wilson. One is with both Warren and Patterson out. We've seen Shanklin elevated to the 53-man roster, so he's one of the guys who's going to be in there and take one of those game day spots. I think Roman Wilson will take Patterson's spot this week. There's been a debate as to whether he's 100%, trying to assess what's going on from some videos on Twitter. It's a little bit hard to tell, but he is practicing full, and hopefully they get him in there so that he can get 8 to 12 plays under his belt this week and start to be a part of this offense. Steelers got chewed up by Josh Downs of the Colts out of the slot last week. They need to have something like that. Calvin Austin has shown, a little bit, but give me Roman Wilson. Let's see what he can do. Let him be part of this offense. Also, another point, my goodness, did you see that play with Darnell Washington where Justin Fields, play action left, I like that. He rolls right. Washington breaks out into the flat. Fields throws he's got one guy, defender to deal with, makes a nice sidearm pass. Washington catches the ball about 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, has to turn. He's got one tackler right here. The dude is 6'8", 9 million pounds. Nobody wants a piece of this. Stiff arms that guy into the ground. Runs down the sideline. Shows, crazy athleticism as he hurdles the next guy. Remember, he's 6'5", 280. Hurdles the next guy. Maybe 6'7", I don't even remember. Needless to say, if you're a linebacker or a defensive back, that's the last thing you want to deal with as he mauls the third guy and then kind of gets knocked out of bounds. Show me some more of that. Let's get the ball in the hands of Darnell Washington. Not just is he going to be a force in the red zone, But if he shows that kind of athleticism in the open field, and you have to believe that, even though the Steelers don't have a ton of weapons, they're not really worried about Darnell Washington in the passing game. Let's see a little bit of number 80 as the Steelers try to get it going Sunday night. All right, Cowboys 2-2. This is a massive game for them. If they lose this game, they then have the Lions at home. Okay, that's going to be a toss-up game for them. They go on a bye and then have at the Niners and at the Falcons. You want to talk about teams in the national spotlight? Obviously, the Steelers all the time, but the Cowboys all the time. And with Jerry Jones and the coaching situation in Dallas, if they were to lose this game, they could potentially lose the next three. They could be looking at 2-6 and season over as they get the Eagles and the Texans at home. So imperative for them to win this game. I don't know that I would use the word imperative for the Steelers to win this game, but again, if they lose this game, they're looking at 3-2, and you reassess kind of what kind of football team are they? Why did they lose the game? So keys to the game, as always, turnovers. The Steelers, 0 turnovers created the last 2 games, and not for lack of opportunity in the last one. Queen doesn't recover the fumble. 2 Joey Porter opportunities at interceptions that he didn't make. Certainly the second one in the end zone. Whew. And you got to get to the quarterback, man. You got to get to the quarterback this week. Dallas offensive line, not great. Got to put Dak under pressure. Okay, so last thing, we'll wrap things up here. Steelers offensive line. Unfortunate news as we got early in the week on James Daniel, torn Achilles tendon, but it is Isaac Seumalo who's going to be back. So look, I've got a decent level of comfort with the offensive line. It's the same as last week, except you're just flipping Daniels for Seumalo. It's kind of a push, and Mason McCormick goes from the left side to the right side. I expected Mason McCormick to be the starting right guard in 2025. Well, 5 weeks into the season now, he's your starting right guard in 2024. Jones and Moore, obviously at the tackles, Frazier at center, Seumalo. I think the offensive line is fine, but yeah, of course, can't afford any more injuries to the offensive line. That would be problematic. So hopefully, look, coming into this game on Sunday, they need to start faster. It's been a problem. It's predictable. It's been a problem. They need to take the training wheels off Justin Fields. It can't just be you're down 17 points. Now we're going to open up the offense. Attack. I love the fact that they got 13 targets to George Pickens last week. He has shown an elite level receiver. One quick thought on Davante Adams. Be great to have him. You can fit him under the cap. That's not going to be it. I just think when we look at the bigger picture of other teams bidding in the situation with both the Jets and Saints as possibilities, I highly doubt Davante Adams is going to be a Steeler anytime soon or ever. But hey, if Omar can get that done, God bless him, because nothing not good about having more good football players. So, all right, Steelers. I got it right on the offensive side of last week in terms of my prediction against the Colts. I thought the offense was due to explode. Again, maybe the circumstances were a little different as they had to put up all those points in the second half just to get back in the game. Justin Fields, I don't think he's playing for his job, but he can secure his job and kind of make sure he's the starter against the Las Vegas Raiders if they put up 25 plus points. I think the Steelers are going to put up 24 points plus again in this game. I'm very interested to see how they manage the running game, how they split the carries. Is Najee going to be the only guy getting the ball in the running game? And they need some, cohesiveness from this offensive line. But if they show an ability to run against the Cowboys early in this game, it should open up play action passing. And let's see Justin Fields go to work, spread the ball around, get Darnell Washington involved. Let's see some more screens from the offense. On the defensive side of the ball, they need to play better. Obviously, they're going to focus a lot of attention, probably rolling a safety toward CeeDee Lamb. I would expect the Steelers to play more man with help, kind of bracket CeeDee Lamb. Not as much zone as you saw against the Colts. I don't think they did that very well. Need a better game out of Patrick Queen. He was not good last week. He hasn't had a great start to his Steeler career. Let's see TJ and Minkah get on the stat sheet in this game. Let's call it Steelers. They win this one 27-17. They get 2 turnovers. I expect good things from Justin Fields, but I'm telling you, one of the next 3 weeks, I think we're going to see Russell Wilson as the Steeler starting quarterback. Hopefully 4-1 going to Vegas. That'll probably keep Justin the job, but I think long-term, trying to figure out whether you can win in the playoffs and who's your starting quarterback going to be in 2025 going forward, at some point, you're going to have to see Russell Wilson. So, thanks for being with me. One last thing. If you know somebody who wants to be involved in helping me out with the video, the editing, some, everything else that might come to scaling this podcast up from the Turkish prison look and the quality of the production, I'm all ears. Hit me up on Twitter, on my DMs, or in the comments on YouTube. Again, if you could share this, like it, and any questions you have or comments in the comments page on YouTube are appreciated. At David M. Todd on Twitter. Thanks for checking out the David Toddcast.